imagine you are taking a new FDA-approved medication.
Right.
You trust it completely because a whole stack of peer-reviewed scientific papers says it is safe and effective.
You assume the science is solid.
Yeah, exactly. But what if the data proving that safety was completely fabricated? Like by an organized crime ring masquerading as academic scientists.
It sounds like a movie plot, but it is actually happening.
It really is. And today we are doing a deep dive into a fascinating presentation by Dr. Arup Giri. It's titled Research Ethics Beyond Plagiarism.
Which is such an important topic for us to cover.
Right, because when most of us hear research ethics, our brains immediately flash back to, like, high school English class.
Oh, for sure. You think about copying and pasting from Wikipedia.
Exactly. Forgetting quotation marks or failing to cite a source. I mean, plagiarism is universally treated as the ultimate academic sin.
Yeah, we are entirely conditioned to view plagiarism as the alpha and omega of academic misconduct. But Dr. Giri's research illuminates a far more complex reality. Plagiarism is really just the visible tip of a massive iceberg. It is the most easily detected surface-level violation.
Because it's so easy to catch now.
Exactly. What lies beneath that surface is this vast, incredibly sophisticated underworld of academic fraud.
Wow.
And understanding this matters to you, the listener, because this hidden underworld directly impacts the medicine you take, the technology you rely on, and, well, fundamental public trust in the scientific method itself.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I think the best way to conceptualize the difference is this. Plagiarism is like a thief stealing someone's wallet in broad daylight.
Right. It's obvious.
Yeah, it's obvious. It's sloppy, and it is very easy to catch with a simple software scan.
Just run it through a checker.
Exactly. But today, we are moving away from obvious theft. We're diving into the sophisticated, invisible heists happening in the absolute shadows of modern science.
I love that analogy.
Thanks. We're looking at the incredibly subtle ways scientists bend the truth just to survive in their careers.
Yeah, and to understand how that truth is bent, we first have to define the boundaries of scientific malpractice.
Okay, lay it out for us.
Well, in research, blatant, outright fraud is categorized as FFP.
Which stands for fabrication, falsification, and plagiarism.
You got it. That is the explicitly illegal territory. Conjuring data from thin air or actively doctoring a photograph.
The really bad stuff.
Right. But bordering FFP is this vast, highly populated slippery slope known as QRPs, or questionable research practices.
The notorious gray zone.
Exactly. The UK Research Integrity Office defines QRPs as minor infractions. It's the massaging of data that falls just short of intentional, blatant misconduct.
So it's not totally making things up.
No, it's not necessarily fabricating data out of nothing. It is tweaking your analytical methods or, presenting your findings selectively until you manifest the specific result you need.
That is wild.
What's fascinating here is a study published in PLOS One. They surveyed thousands of scientists and revealed that a staggering number of researchers openly admit to engaging in QRPs.
Wait, they just admit it.
Yeah, they do. And more concerningly, many of them justify these actions. They view them not as serious ethical breaches, but as necessary survival tactics in a hyper-competitive field.
I mean, that is a staggering admission. Let's look at the actual mechanics of how they do this.
Let's do it.
Starting with the most prominent tool in the QRP arsenal, which is p-hacking.
Oh, p-hacking. Yes.
To grasp this, we need to talk about the p-value. In science, a p-value is a statistical metric. And the golden ticket to getting your paper published in a prestigious journal is achieving a p-value of less than 0.05.
Yeah, that 0.05 threshold is the universal gatekeeper.
Right.
A p-value essentially measures the probability that your experimental results were just a random fluke.
Okay, so a p-value of 0.05 means there's only a 5% chance that your data occurred by random statistical noise.
Exactly, which means there's a 95% chance that you actually discovered a real, tangible effect. Journals demand that mathematical certainty before they will publish a finding.
So imagine a researcher runs a massive, expensive experiment.
Lots of time and money on the line.
Totally. They do all the math, and their p-value comes out to 0.06.
Oh, so close.
Right. Technically, the scientific method requires them to accept that their experiment failed to show a statistically significant effect.
Which is a tough pill to swallow.
Exactly. The pressure to publish is immense. So instead of accepting the 0.06, they p-hack.
They massage the number.
Yeah, they might look at their data and decide to drop a few outliers that skewed the math, or they might run a slightly different statistical model.
Or recruit just 3 more participants to push the math over the edge.
Exactly. They massage the data until that 0.06 is forced down to a 0.049. It looks perfectly mathematically significant on paper, but it is an entirely artificial construct.
It is a statistical mirage.
A mirage.
And the psychology behind this is what makes it so pervasive. The researchers doing this rarely see themselves as malicious actors.
It's like they don't think they're cheating.
No, because they have often spent years on a hypothesis they deeply believe in. When the data doesn't quite cooperate, they convince themselves that the underlying effect is real.
So they think they just need to tweak the parameters to help the math reflect what they already know to be true.
Exactly. They view it as cleaning up the data rather than manipulating it.
Wow. Which leads directly into another really subtle manipulation. Harkinger. Harking.
Yes. Hypothesizing after results are known.
Right, because the bedrock of the scientific method is chronological. You state a hypothesis, you run the experiment to test it, and the data either proves you right or wrong.
That's how we all learned it in school.
Exactly. But Harking completely reverses that chronology. A researcher runs an experiment testing variable A, but they find absolutely nothing.
A total dead end.
Yeah. However, they notice a totally random, unexpected correlation with variable B.
Okay.
Instead of reporting that as an accidental discovery, they read the final paper pretending they predicted variable B from day one.
It's so dishonest.
They completely rewrite the introduction, bury the original failed hypothesis, and present themselves as having predicted the outcome perfectly.
And, it creates this seamless, beautiful narrative for the journal editors, but it completely corrupts the scientific record.
Because it's entirely fabricated confidence.
Right. When you hypothesize after the fact, you are stripping away the ability to genuinely test an idea. You are replacing rigorous inquiry with hindsight bias.
So arcing is basically like shooting an arrow at a blank wall and then walking up with a paintbrush and painting the bullseye around wherever the arrow happened to land, just so you look like an expert marksman.
That is a very apt analogy. You are manufacturing a target to validate an accidental hit.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the third major QRP, which is selective reporting.
Okay, what's that one?
Consider a massive clinical trial testing a new antidepressant. The research team measures 10 different health outcomes. Sleep quality, anxiety levels, appetite, mood, and so on.
Okay, all the standard metrics.
Right. Now, say 9 of those metrics show absolutely zero improvement from the drug. But one metric, maybe self-reported morning energy, shows a marginal tiny benefit.
Just 1 out of 10.
Exactly. Selective reporting occurs when the researchers write an entire paper focusing exclusively on that one positive outcome.
While completely hiding the 9 failed tests from the public.
You got it.
Wow. So they construct a reality where the 9 failures simply never occurred. I mean, the danger there is obvious. It creates a deeply biased scientific landscape.
Very dangerous.
Because a doctor evaluating that drug only sees the glowing positive data published in the journal. The critical negative data, which shows the drug is largely ineffective, is just sitting hidden in a filing cabinet.
And that hidden data is often the most important context.
Okay.
If you run enough tests, pure statistical probability dictates that eventually one metric will show a positive result purely by chance.
Just statistical noise again.
Right. By burying the failures, they turn a statistical anomaly into a medical recommendation.
Man, so if researchers are constantly painting fake bullseyes, burying their missed shots, and creating these statistical mirages in the gray zone, what happens when an independent lab comes along and tries to hit that same target?
They can't.
Right. Because the bullseye was never really there. And this direct causal chain leads to a systemic emergency known as the replication crisis.
Yes. The consequences of those minor infractions scale up into a catastrophic structural failure.
It's a huge deal.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, in 2016, the prestigious journal Nature undertook a massive project to quantify this. They conducted an anonymous survey of over 1,500 researchers across a wide spectrum of disciplines.
Like chemistry, biology, medicine, everything.
Exactly, earth sciences too. The methodology of the survey was designed to allow scientists to speak freely about the realities in their labs.
Because it was anonymous.
Right. And the statistics that emerged were deeply alarming. Over 70% of these researchers reported that they had attempted and failed to reproduce another scientist's published experiment.
70%.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a staggering majority of published science failing to hold up to scrutiny.
And the internal data was even more concerning. More than 50% of the surveyed scientists reported that they had failed to reproduce their own previous experiments when they tried to run them a second time.
Wait, let me push back on this for a second.
Sure.
We know that science is inherently messy.
Yeah.
right? You're dealing with volatile living cells, complex fluid dynamics, tiny margins of error in microscopic environments.
That is very true.
So, are we absolutely certain this 70% failure rate is driven by shady ethics and QRPs? I mean, couldn't a large portion of this just be the reality that it is incredibly difficult to perfectly recreate a highly complex experiment in a different lab on the other side of the world?
That is a crucial distinction to make. You are right, science is indeed messy, and a failed replication can absolutely occur due to benign, unknown variables.
Like a temperature shift or something.
Yeah. Exactly. A reagent might have degraded slightly in transit, the ambient humidity in the new lab might be different, or a biological sample might have mutated.
Right.
However, the sheer overwhelming volume of these failures cannot be mathematically explained by messiness alone. The systemic reliance on p-hacking and selective reporting actively manufactures results that are fundamentally untrue.
So it's not just an accident.
No. When a published finding is actually just a statistical mirage built by dropping outliers, it is mathematically impossible for the next lab to replicate it. The effect never existed in the physical world.
Wow.
Science relies entirely on independent replication to establish truth. If a finding cannot be reproduced, the entire foundation of that specific scientific claim crumbles.
And the real-world devastation of this crumbling foundation is immense.
It really is.
We are talking about billions of dollars in taxpayer-funded research grants flowing into blind alleys. We are talking about brilliant young graduate students spending 4 years of their PhDs chasing a phantom result that was completely p-hacked by a previous lab.
It wastes years of human potential.
Yeah. And most terrifyingly, in fields like pharmacology and oncology, this shaky, unreplicable evidence frequently becomes the foundation for actual clinical policies.
Which impacts everyday people.
Right. It puts human lives at risk when doctors prescribe treatments based on mirages.
Exactly. To understand why this crisis exists, we really have to examine the human element. If the data itself is failing to replicate, we must look at who is generating and taking credit for this data.
Follow the motivation.
Yes. Why are highly educated scientists rushing to publish flawed information? The answer lies in the core currency of academic life, which is authorship.
Authorship dictates everything in academia.
Everything.
It determines your salary, your likelihood of achieving tenure, your laboratory space, and your ability to secure your next $1 million grant. The stakes are existential.
Very high stakes.
And because authorship is so valuable, the credit system itself has become a major target for malpractice.
Right. The Committee on Publication Ethics, known as COPE, monitors these ethical breaches closely, and they issue strong warnings against 3 specific types of authorship fraud.
Okay, let's go through them.
The first, and perhaps most insidious, is ghost authorship.
Ghost authorship. I'm guessing that implies someone is doing the actual labor of writing the paper, but they are staying entirely invisible to the public and the peer reviewers.
Precisely. And it is most frequently observed in industry-funded trials. Let's look at the pharmaceutical space, for example.
Okay.
If a pharmaceutical corporation wants to publish a paper promoting the efficacy of their new drug, they know that a paper authored by their own internal scientists will be viewed with extreme skepticism.
By journals and by doctors.
Right. It carries an inherent bias. So to bypass this, the company hires professional internal medical writers to draft the paper perfectly.
And they are the ghosts.
Yes, those writers are the ghosts. They never appear on the byline. Instead, the company recruits independent, highly respected academic doctors from prestigious universities who barely touch the raw data and places their names on the paper.
Oh, wow. That is essentially money laundering, but for scientific credibility.
That's a great way to put it.
They are washing biased corporate data through the pristine reputation of an academic university.
It creates an illusion of independent validation. And the exact inverse of this practice is guest authorship, frequently referred to as honorary authorship.
Guest authorship, okay.
This occurs when a famous, highly cited senior researcher is added to the author list of a paper they had absolutely zero involvement with. They didn't design the study, they didn't collect the data, and they likely didn't even read the final draft.
Okay, here is where it gets really interesting to me. I completely understand why a junior researcher would want to slap a famous Nobel laureate's name on their paper.
Sure, it opens doors.
Yeah, they assume the famous name will act as a VIP pass, tricking top-tier journals into accepting the submission. But why on earth would a famous, established scientist risk their hard-earned, lifelong reputation to be a guest author on a paper they know nothing about?
Because the modern academic system evaluates researchers primarily on sheer volume. Even legendary scientists face immense pressure from their institutions to show continuous, high-volume output to maintain their funding and elite status.
Publish or perish never ends, even at the top.
Never. So if a junior colleague offers you a free publication credit that requires 0 hours of work, the temptation to accept it is immense. The metric system rewards the accumulation of titles over the integrity of the work.
Wow.
But it is a massive gamble. Because if that paper is later exposed for utilizing manipulated data, the senior researcher's legacy is permanently tethered to the fraud.
Right. Their name is right there on the fake paper. And the final variation Cope warns about is gift authorship, which often manifests as coercion.
Yes, this one is nasty.
This is the department head who operates like a mafia boss, explicitly demanding that their name goes on every single paper that comes out of their building.
Even if they never step foot in the lab.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether they were ever in the laboratory while the experiment was happening, or it's a mutual pact between colleagues, like, I will artificially add your name to my paper this month if you artificially add my name to yours next month.
Yeah. What all three of these practices do, ghost, guest, and gift authorship, is systematically break the fundamental credit system of science.
Totally.
They reward academic politics, networking leverage, and corporate influence over rigorous, actual scientific labor.
Which is incredibly damaging when it is just localized colleagues trading favors.
Right.
But when you combine this desperate, frantic need for authorship with modern internet infrastructure and automation, you get an industrialized black market.
And the scale of fraud is truly difficult to comprehend.
It really is. We are talking about the rise of paper mills and review mills.
Yeah. This raises an important question about the future of knowledge. What happens when academic fraud transitions from a localized ethical lapse by an individual into a highly lucrative global industry?
It becomes organized crime.
Exactly. We are no longer dealing with a desperate graduate student tweaking a p-value. We are facing organized crime syndicates actively infiltrating the repository of human knowledge.
I mean, paper mills are literal commercial factories. They operate out of office buildings, hiring armies of cheap writers.
And they use automated software.
Yeah. And increasingly, generative AI to mass-produce completely fake academic manuscripts. They fabricate the data sets entirely from scratch.
It's all fake.
And to make the papers look legitimate, they reuse scientific imagery. For example, they will take images of Western blots, which are basically photographic visual readouts used by biologists to detect specific proteins in a sample.
Right, those little black lines.
Exactly. And they will copy and paste the exact same visual protein blobs across dozens of completely unrelated papers. They just slightly crop or rotate the image to trick the plagiarism software.
It's so brazen.
And once they have this completely fabricated paper ready, they list the authorship slots for sale online.
And desperate researchers who are facing the threat of losing their jobs if they don't meet their university's publication quotas will pay thousands of dollars to literally buy their way onto the byline of these fabricated papers.
So this is literally a counterfeit currency ring.
It really is.
But instead of printing fake $100 bills, they're printing fake knowledge. And scientists are paying real money to buy that fake knowledge to advance their careers.
And the paper mills don't just stop at writing the fake paper. They guarantee its publication through partnerships with review mills.
Oh.
These are highly coordinated collusion networks, often called peer review rings. When a journal receives a submission, they ask for independent experts to review it, while the paper mills have infiltrated these reviewer databases.
They hack the system.
Yep. They ensure that their fake papers get assigned to corrupt peer reviewers within their network, who then provide glowing, unconditionally positive reviews, fast-tracking the counterfeit science directly to publication.
And the scale of this operation culminated in an absolute meltdown in scientific publishing recently. In 2023 alone, over 10,000 academic papers were retracted in a single year due to paper mills and peer review fraud.
10,000. Let that sink in.
10,000 published studies wiped from the record. That included over 8,000 retractions from the Hindawi Publishing Group, which led to the complete closure of 19 different scientific journals by their parent company, Wiley.
The 2023 retractions were a massive wake-up call for the global scientific community. But, fortunately, the ecosystem is fighting back.
Good. How?
We are seeing the rise of forensic image sleuths. Independent researchers like Dr. Elizabeth Bick, who spend their lives meticulously analyzing published papers.
Oh, she's amazing.
She really is. She has a legendary ability to spot duplicated charts and manipulated images with the naked eye. She looks for highly specific repeating pixel noise in the background of images.
Things normal people would ever notice.
Right. Or overlapping panels that have been artificially spliced together, exposing the paper mill's sloppy manufacturing processes. And in tandem with these human sleuths, major publishers are finally deploying advanced AI screening tools.
Okay, fighting fire with fire.
Exactly. These tools scan for paper mill fingerprints, like irregular authorship changes late in the review process, or the use of non-institutional burner email addresses.
Okay, so if the integrity of science is currently under siege by these massive counterfeit rings, how do we actually dismantle them permanently? Because catching fake images one by one feels like playing an endless game of whack-a-mole.
It absolutely is.
To fix this, we have to attack the root cause, the toxic culture that makes researchers so desperate to buy a fake paper in the first place.
The Observer Research Foundation has published extensively on this. They note that the systemic root cause is the publish or perish culture.
Right.
We have tied a researcher's livelihood, their ability to feed their family and keep their laboratory open, directly to the raw volume of papers they produce, rather than the quality of their discoveries.
When an institution prioritizes quantity over quality, they are mathematically incentivizing their employees to cheat.
Well said. To counter this structural flaw, there is a growing global movement toward open science and open research practices, or ORPs.
Okay.
This represents a fundamental philosophical shift in how research is conducted and evaluated. And the first major pillar of this movement is pre-registration.
Pre-registration is brilliant because it tackles the QRPs at the source.
It does.
Under this system, a researcher is required to publicly register their hypothesis, their exact experimental methods, and their specific mathematical analysis plan before they are allowed to collect a single drop of data.
So they can't change it later.
Exactly. That plan is locked in, publicly, on an immutable digital registry with a timestamp. This completely neutralizes p-hacking and data counting.
Because the roadmap is already published.
Right. You can't secretly drop an outlier data point if your pre-registered math plan didn't explicitly define how you would handle outliers. And you can't pretend you hypothesized a random finding after the fact, because the timestamped registry proves exactly what you originally intended to look for.
It forces absolute transparency. And it keeps the researcher honest about their original intentions, preventing the narrative from shifting to fit the most publishable data.
So what does this all mean for the actual organic process of scientific discovery?
That's a good question.
Let's say a researcher pre-registers a strict plan, they run the experiment, but they stumble onto an amazing accidental discovery that they genuinely didn't expect. Does the rigid nature of pre-registration mean they aren't allowed to publish that accidental breakthrough?
That is a very common fear among legacy scientists, but the answer is no. Pre-registration does not ban serendipity or accidental discovery. It simply requires rigorous honesty about it.
Okay, so they can still publish it.
Yes, if you stumble onto a massive breakthrough, you can absolutely publish it. The rule is simply that you must explicitly label that specific finding as exploratory research rather than confirmatory research.
Oh, I see.
You just have to clearly state in the paper, hey, we did not expect this, we found it by accident outside of our registered plan, and therefore future independent studies need to rigorously test it. It is entirely about transparency, not restriction.
That makes perfect sense. And the second major pillar of open science is open data and open code.
Yes, crucial.
In the traditional system, a researcher only publishes the final, polished PDF of their paper. It is like only showing someone a fully baked cake and asking them to guess if you use real sugar or a cheap substitute.
Great analogy.
Thanks. But under open science, you are required to publish the raw, anonymized spreadsheets of your data sets, along with the actual computer code or scripts you use to run your statistical analysis.
This shifts the entire paradigm of science from a system of trust me to a system of show me.
Show me your work.
Exactly. When you mandate the publication of raw numbers, it instantly removes the opportunity to massage or manipulate the data in the shadows. Any scientist, anywhere in the world, can download your raw data, run your exact analytical code, and verify if they arrive at the same p-value.
That's powerful.
It is. If a paper mill fabricated the data or a researcher secretly dropped outliers, the open code will expose the manipulation immediately.
And the final crucial piece of this fix is institutional reform. The universities that hire these scientists and the government agencies that fund them have to completely overhaul their incentive structures.
They hold the purse strings.
They do. They must stop evaluating a scientist's worth based on the sheer volume of papers they churn out. We have to transition to evaluation metrics that reward rigorous research quality, the reproducibility of the work, and a demonstrated willingness to utilize open data practices.
The institutions must build an environment that penalizes corner cutting and actively protects whistleblowers, rather than just demanding an endless stream of publications regardless of the scientific integrity inside them.
To bring all of this together, as Dr. Giri's research makes abundantly clear, 1,000 fabricated, hacked, paper mill-generated manuscripts are worth infinitely less than a single, honest, rigorously conducted study that can actually be replicated.
Because science, at its foundational core, is a collaborative monument.
Yeah.
It is a structure built over centuries, brick by brick, and the mortar holding the entire edifice together is absolute trust. When researchers cut corners to secure promotion, or when they purchase unearned authorship from a criminal mill, they are knowingly placing a cracked, unstable brick into a structure that all of humanity relies upon.
And if we allow too many cracked bricks to be placed, the monument inevitably collapses.
Exactly. It undermines everything.
That brings me back to the very beginning, to that image of the invisible heist. Plagiarism is just the guy stealing a wallet on the street, but these questionable research practices and industrialized paper mills, they are systematically hacking the bank's mainframe from the inside.
A perfect way to sum it up.
Well, here's a final thought for you to mull over today as we wrap up. We discussed how paper mills are currently utilizing generative AI to churn out mass volumes of fake science at an unprecedented speed.
Which is terrifying.
It is. And in response, the big academic publishers are deploying their own advanced AI screening tools to try and catch those exact fakes. So, are we entering a bizarre perpetual arms race? What happens to the fundamental human pursuit of truth when the scientific record itself becomes a battlefield of machines just trying to outsmart other machines?
That is a chilling implication for the future of discovery.
It really is. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the things you read, keep looking for the truth beneath the surface, and we will catch you next time.